This video is going to outline the things you need to do to check your vehicle's air conditioning system. If it doesn't work, these are the things that you need to do. They're not necessarily in any certain order, but your air conditioning in your vehicle can stop working for a number of different reasons. So there's a couple directions that you can go in depending on when it quit working, how long it's been out. But if the first thing you need to go over is what kind of tools do you have and what kind of tools do you need. The first thing of the list that I recommend would be a gauge set, which is going to be something like one of those right there. Just something that you can hook up to the system. You could get something like that for around probably about $25 on Amazon or eBay. The next thing is going to be a UV light. That's just a little UV light that I got on Amazon. It's pretty bright. The other thing that you're going to need is a thermometer. That's something that you don't want to skip. You want to have a good thermometer. This is the one that I have right here. It's called a field piece. But you just need you could use a meat thermometer. Just make sure that it's accurate. And then as far as the other tools go, you're going to need some R134A. You're either going to need to get it in a small 12-ounce can, 16-ounce can, 30-pound cylinder, whatever. And then the last thing you're going to need is going to be some sort of vacuum source. So you could get something like one of these, and this is just a little, it's called an air-operated vacuum pump. They're pretty cheap. They only cost, I don't know, maybe like $10, $15, but you just hook up a air compressor to this end, and then you hook up your manifold gauge set, either R134A or R12, depending on what system you're working on. But if you're just doing one vehicle, that'll get you out of a jam if you don't have a large vacuum pump. Okay, so we talked about the things that you're going to need. So this is going to be our example vehicle. This is my vehicle. And the air conditioning doesn't work. And we don't know why. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to check the pressure in the system. So as you can see, on this side right here, I have the service fitting caps off, and I have my gauge. Well, I have my machine hooked up, where you would have you just hook up your service ports to your service fittings, and then that's going to give you a number on your gauge. So during your original check, when the vehicle off, for the air conditioning compressor to function, you want to have somewhere in the ballpark of about, you have to have over 50. But it should be more towards 100. It's kind of hard to gauge the amount of refrigerant that's in the system. There's no way to tell how much refrigerant's in the system based on the pressure as far as poundage. But as long as you meet the minimum, then your compressor should operate, and at least you'll know if the compressor is working or not, and then you can verify your charge amount from there. But as far as this vehicle goes, there's a sticker right here that says R134A on it, and it gives you the poundage. This vehicle takes 1.63 pounds. So right now I have my gauges hooked up, and if you look at the gauges, it actually says right here that there's nothing in the system. There's no refrigerant in the system. It's actually below zero, which it would normally be at zero if there was no refrigerant in the system. But this is below zero, which means that the system's under a vacuum. So we hooked it up. The AC's not working. We've hooked our machine up, and we have 0 PSI in the system. So if that's your case, if you hook up your gauge set and you have 0 PSI in the system, the next thing that you're going to want to do for this instance is what I would do next, if there was 0 psi in the system, is I would get my black light. This is my black light right here. You can actually see there's a piece of tape back there that's fluorescing in the black light, but this is just that little cheap black light, but it works really well. So the first thing that we would want to do is, if we had 0 psi in the system, we're just going to take our black light and we're going to run through and we're going to follow all of our hoses down and around this engine compartment and figure out exactly if there's anything leaking or not. So we have hoses that go down and underneath of this wiper fluid bottle, and then we could even follow that all the way down, the compressors all the way down there at the bottom, and you want to look. They also go up here to the firewall where it enters the evaporator, and then we would also want to come up front, and we could get down here in the grill and just do some checks in the grill here to make sure. You're just looking for green light. See if you see anything green down in your condenser area, which is in front of your radiator. And then once you've done those checks, if you don't see anything, any kind of dye fluorescing, then the other possibility could be, if you have no pressure in the system, the other thing that you would want to check would be your Schrader valves on your service fittings. So over here you have Schrader valves. That's what we're hooked up to. It's kind of like a tire valve, and inside there's little valve cores. So you'd use a remover tool and a replacement Schrader core like this. So there's a lot of different ones, but all you have to do is just remove the one that's inside. If you do have one of those that's leaking, an easy way to tell if it is leaking is you'd have to put refrigerant into the system, and then remove your service fitting or service coupler from the service fitting to see if there's any refrigerant leaking out. And then this is just a basic installer remover tool right here. It's got the large and the small. So it's definitely important, though, if you have 0 psi in the system, to do a leak check with a UV light, and then to also do a check of your fittings and your Schrader cores. So the next thing that I would recommend to check, if you've checked all that and everything's okay, I have seen, a Schrader core cause to lose all the refrigerant in the system. So if you're able to hold pressure, then we'll call that an easy way to do a quick leak check. So the next problem, and I also discussed all the hoses that you need to check. But the next thing would be, let's say that you come up to the vehicle and you do have good pressure. You hook it up, you've got 110 psi or 100 psi or whatever, but your compressor's not coming on. So what you would want to do, if your compressor is not engaging, what you need to do first is that would be whenever you press the button for air conditioning and no cold air comes out. You have pressure over here on your gauges, but you don't have anything coming out. There's no cold air coming out of the vents. So the first thing that you are going to want to do is, once you get your vehicle up and running, you want to go down here on the front of the engine, and you want to try to find your accessory belt with your compressor on the front. And if you're able to take a look at your compressor, it would be down at the bottom there. If you see it, kind of hard to see it, but that's it right at the very bottom. And you're going to want to check that clutch to make sure that the clutch is turning. If the clutch is turning, then you're going to notice it on your gauge set, assuming that your compressor is good. So let's, in order to see your compressor, you just need to look at it, make sure that it's turning, and that's going to signify if your air conditioning is working. The next thing is going to be an electrical problem. So, fuses. If you come over, well, I mean, on this, every vehicle is a little bit different, but on this vehicle, the fuse box is in this area right here. You just remove this cover and check your fuses. And then there's also another one under the hood. But there's a good website called bbbind.com. And I could put that in the video description, that shows where you could go through and look at the wiring diagrams if you don't have the wiring diagrams. And then the last thing, that if you've checked your pressure and it's good, you don't have any leaks, your compressor is turning on and off, the last thing is going to be compressor failure, where your compressor is not pumping refrigerant at all. So those are some of the things, as far as, like, make sure that your pressure is not too low, not too high. So you want the low side to be, between 30 and 40, and your high side to be between 175 and 250. You want to make sure that your engine fan is coming on. You want to make sure that everything's okay with the belt and the clutch. You want to check your cabin air filter to make sure that it's not clogged up. A really quick check that you can do, if you need, let's say you're having some sort of issue, is you can check your heater hoses. If you have a problem with your heater hoses, where you have a blend door that's stuck open. Let's say temperature outside ambient is 85 degrees, and you stick your thermometer in the vent and you have 110 degree air coming out. A quick thing you could do would be to use a pair of vice grips on your heater hose, just a pair of pliers like this. If you have hot air coming out, hotter than what the temperature is, then you can use these to block off your heater hose. And see if you have a problem, and maybe if your air conditioning starts working, then you'll know. And you also want to make sure you have your cooling system is working properly, because if it's not, if your vehicle's overheating, then on some vehicles it can turn the air conditioning off. But let's go ahead. We'll charge this up, and then we'll just kind of show you what a properly operating system should look like. Okay. So this vehicle takes 1.63 pounds. So just like that. So right now the computer is, or the machine is charging up the air conditioning on this vehicle. As you can see, the pressures are going up, going up, going up. And the weight is being measured via the internal scale on the machine. So once the scale says that there's been 1.63 pounds added, then it'll shut off. But we are at about 70 psi. And about 125 psi on the high side. This is just charging. It'll stabilize out, and it'll give you an ambient reading of what the pressure would be at rest. Okay, so there we go. So all in all, somewhere about 100 psi or so. Those will continue to stabilize out. But one's at about 95 or so, and the other one's at about 125. So let me go ahead and start the vehicle up. Okay, so we got the vehicle started up here. AC compressor just turned on. We're at about 25 psi on the low side, and at about 225, 235 psi on the high side, which is about perfect. You can hear the cooling fan operating, and that's about it. The other thing that you want to do here is get your vent temperature thermometer out, and just turn that bad boy on, and then I'll go ahead and stick it in the vent. So yeah, we're still at about 27, 28 psi on the low side, and at about 230 psi on the high side. Ambient temperature out today is somewhere around 89 degrees Fahrenheit. So those pressures look good. Those pressures look about perfect for the temperature that we've got. I would actually expect it to be a little higher on a 90-degree day. But I'm not going to complain about it. The pressure just came up a little bit above 30. It's at about 33. The fan slowed down a little bit, and the fan plays a huge role depending on whether or not your air conditioning works properly. Very, very important that you monitor. If your fan, believe me, if your fan shuts off for just a second, that high side pressure is going to go up very high very quickly. Sister's been on for about a minute now. No, I'm sorry, about 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And our vent temperature is about 57 degrees, and it's continuing to fall. But I mean, as far as diagnosing goes, just check your pressures. If you can't hold pressure, then figure out why you can't hold pressure. Do your leak checks. If the computer won't let it, or if the vehicle won't let the AC come on, get your wiring schematic out. Check your pressure switches. Check your fuses, and check all those things. And your compressor is not pumping at all, then you're going to have to start maybe leaning towards compressor failure. Assuming that with compressor failure, you're going to see somewhere about close to equal on both sides. You're going to see somewhere about maybe 70 psi on the low side, and maybe 80 or 90 psi on the high side. But as far as that goes, I mean, this is what a well operating. We're at 32 psi low, 225 psi or 235 psi on the high side. So that's going to be a perfectly operating system, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. You're not going to hear me complain about that. but I'll just pull you guys out of here again. Other than that, see if I can get a shot here, the vent temperature. So yeah, we're about 56 degrees falling, 56.7. That's going to continue to fall. Should get down somewhere around 42 degrees or so. And this is how you check your, now that we've put pressure into the system, this is how you would check your Schrader coils. I mean, if it's an older vehicle and I'm doing a service on for somebody, I'm just going to change it because I have a big box. But once you take off your fitting, normally what I'll do is I'll just place my finger over top just to make sure that there's no pressure coming out. And assuming that there is no pressure coming out, then we'll just put your cap back on. And that's it. That's all you have to do. Just stick your finger over it, make sure there's no leak. Sometimes you'll feel it. You go, psst, 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 just a small little hiss. If it does that a couple of times, then you need to just go ahead and change it out, because the cap's not designed to hold pressure out. It's just designed to keep dirt from getting in. But that's about all the things I can think of to check. But I mean, if you got any questions, just let me know. I've worked on quite a few different vehicles. Just a word of caution: if you're working on any kind of German vehicle, some German vehicles don't have clutches on the compressor, so you're not going to hear it engage like this vehicle when you hear the compressor click on and off, click on and off. Some German vehicles use a swash plate. So just do your research, figure it out, do your research, and then you'll know. Thank you.